Hey guys, I thought I would take the opportunity to show you our new home gym setup that we've just got put in our front garden, but also take the opportunity to talk to you guys about some of the mindset of fitness, and particularly today, just talking about what's necessary in order to get in shape, but also stay in shape year round, because so many people are obviously struggling because they're constantly on the wagon, off the wagon, yo-yoing back and forth. I hope you like my new improvised weights belt, which is a band because I don't have a weights belt. So I'm having to figure out alternative ways of doing this. Yeah, a lot of people are constantly on and off the wagon and struggling to sustain what they're trying to do year round because largely because they kind of have this mentality, this mindset of what is the maximum that I can get away with to get results as quickly as possible. And whilst that might make sense in the short term, and a lot of people are thinking, well, you know, if I get really quick results, then I'm going to be really motivated by those results, and then I can keep it going. But unfortunately, it actually tends to lead people into a very much a perfectionist mentality, and now they can only feel motivated when they're making massive and rapid progress. And as soon as things slow down, they lose motivation, they lose enthusiasm. And so actually, I think a much better philosophy is minimum effective dose. What is the minimum effective dose when it comes to your training, and also when it comes to your nutrition as well? What's the minimum effective standard for yourself with regards to your nutrition? And what's the minimum effective dose with your training? And that's very much kind of what I'm doing right now with my training. Is I'm following what I would consider minimum effective dose. I'm following what I just started a few days ago, a program by this amazing American strength coach called Dan John. I think it's called the 40-day workout, perhaps. Literally all it is 3 main exercises, 2 sets of 5 of each of the exercises. That's it. Right? It seems really small, right? It seems really kind of insignificant as a workout, but you'd be amazed at how effective it is. But I think that concept alone, minimum effective dose, is a massive mindset shift for a lot of people that enables them to stay in shape year round instead of constantly trying to chase the fastest, most aggressive results that they possibly can. Anyway, I'm going to do my first set on these pull-ups, and then get into some of this in a bit more detail in a moment. I hope you have to excuse any grunting that I might be making. Some of you might be wondering why I'm not fully extending all the way to the bottom. I'm actually really trying to prioritise feeling my scapula where I want to, and trying to really feel my lower traps. I find if I go all the way to the bottom at the moment, tend to lose that a bit. I've got all manner of issues with my shoulders. Anyway, that's a debate for another day. Labrum tears and surgeries and all kinds of things. So anyway, yeah, I think one of the things that causes people to constantly be chasing this, start my stopwatch, chasing this fastest results that I can possibly get away with, is that the reason they're doing that, the reason that they can only feel motivated by fast results, is that it's coming from a desperation mindset, which is basically, please reassure me that I can get there. They've gotten to a point now where they've been struggling with their body or with their results for long enough that they have this fear of never being able to get there. And so in order for them to, before they give themselves permission to believe that they can get there, it's like they constantly need reassurance, emotional reassurance, every single day that they can get there. That's why, one of the reasons why people get on the weighing scales every single day. It's no longer about the scientific objective data. It's about the emotional reassurance that people are looking for. Please reassure me that I can get there. Please reassure me that I'm on track. Please reassure me that I can do this. It's the same reason why people kind of get addicted to a lot of these other methodologies that you may have heard us talking about before, like counting calories and like rigidly and neurotically counting calories year round as a way of trying to stay on track and regulate your own behavior. And again, people need the emotional reassurance of the numbers. Yeah, it's a mentality that your motivation is coming from what I call away from motivation, which is what you're trying to get away from. It's the emotional pain that you're trying to get away from, but you don't have clarity on what it is that you're moving towards. And so instead, one of the things that I think is much more going to be much more effective is a combination of two things. One is getting real clarity on what is it that you're moving towards? What is it that you want more of? And having a goal is important, but falling in love with the process. And that's critical. Falling in love with the process and living according to your values, because you're going to have short-term fluctuations. You cannot expect to go into the gym and hit personal bests every single time. It's not going to happen. It's going to go down at various points, right? And you cannot expect to have your diet go perfectly all of the time. And so, you might have periods where you're sick or where you've had an injury. And so now maybe you are carrying a bit more body fat, or maybe you've lost some fitness, or maybe you've lost some strength. And again, if the only way that you can stay motivated is when you're constantly making progress and constantly losing weight, constantly getting fitter and stronger in the gym, and the moment that plateaus or drops, then you lose motivation, how sustainable is that? So instead, it's about getting clarity on what are your values, and you can always live according to your values. Right? If this is something that is truly important to you, even if you are coming back from sickness or are coming back from an injury and you're not in the same shape that you were, why would you not go to the gym? Why would you not make healthy choices with your food? So you can fall in love with the process in this way, fall in love with the journey so much and the lifestyle that you're creating, because this lifestyle adds so much value to you that you wouldn't not do it anyway under any circumstances. Right? Even if you've had a bad injury, there's always something that you can do that's going to be healthy, that's going to be smart, that prioritizes your health and prioritizes these values. So there's always something that you can do. So why would you not do those things? And so by falling in love with the process and it being something that you just do day in, day out, week in, week out anyway, you always prioritize it, then the destination kind of takes care of itself. And I think that's one of the key things for a lot of people to make this sustainable, is falling in love with the journey and the process, as opposed to fixating on the destination. Because when you do it that way, the destination takes care of itself, but it might not happen in the way that you expected. It might take you longer. It might take you twice as long to get there than you thought it would. Do you really care if it turns out that way? Of course you don't. So fall in love with the process, not so much the destination. Something else that causes people to struggle so much to sustain any level of consistency so that they can stay in shape year round is the words, just this once. And people use it for so many things, right? They use it when it comes to their diet. And now, I need to caveat this with, it's super important that you are eating your favorite foods on a regular basis, right? You need to be allowing yourself to eat, things like chocolate, or drink a glass of wine, or whatever things that it is that you particularly enjoy in your food, with your food on a regular basis. If you eliminate those things completely, then how sustainable is that? But what I'm talking about is violating your own standards that you've set for yourself, overindulging in those things in a way where you're breaking and violating your own values, but you use softeners like just this once. When you tell yourself, no, honestly, this is the last time, I'll start again on Monday, or just this once. And we use those words as a way to convince ourselves that it really is just this once, it's an isolated incident, and it's never going to happen again. What does history tell you? I'm sure you can look back and look at some of your just this once decisions, whether it's around that or actually doing your workout that you told yourself you were going to do, or you know, breaking your own rules with your diet, and recognize that actually that ends up being years and years and years, maybe even decades for some of you. And so just this once never really means just this once. Why? Because of the message that your brain receives. The message your brain receives is, this is a new standard, or this is a standard that I tolerate for myself. This is an acceptable behavior, that when I'm a little bit too tired, or temptation is a little bit stronger, or it's a bit inconvenient, or it's a little bit scary, then it's okay to just violate my own values and my own standards that I've set for myself. It's okay to break my own promises to myself. That's basically the message that your brain receives. So of course you end up doing it again. And the more you repeat it, the more of a habit it becomes. And then all of a sudden, procrastinating, making excuses, being on and off the wagon, all of a sudden becomes a feature in your life because you tolerate it. And the reason you tolerate it is because of those words, just this once. So it's super important that you don't then take this and go into perfectionism, which is what I'm going to discuss in a minute. Just going to do my first set on the bench. So yeah, something else that gets people mega stuck is perfectionism, and this is one of the reasons why, again, people can't sustain stuff year round, is because they have this perfectionist mentality, which is, if I can't get it perfect, then what's the point? What's the point in doing it anyway? So for example, people will do this with their workouts, and let's see my clock. People will go to the gym, and let's say that they've had a mega long working day. You know, they've had a 12-hour shift or whatever it is that their job is, and they've scheduled to go to the gym after work. But then when it comes time, they know that they're not going to knock it out of the park with their workout. Why? Because they're fatigued. They're neurologically fatigued after a long day. And so because they know that they're not necessarily going to be performing personal bests, or they're afraid of underperforming, they don't go at all, because that would feel like a failure. Well, again, how sustainable is that? If you have to hit personal bests every single time you go to the gym, how sustainable is that? It's not going to happen. Right? You're going to have plenty of days where performance is up and then performance is down. You're going to have plenty of days like that. Days when you are, tired and because the clients that we work with are hardworking, driven professionals for the most part. And so of course they've got demanding jobs, and there's all kinds of these other demands on their biological systems, their neurology, their immune system, and all of these kinds of things. So they're not professional athletes. They can't, and even a professional athlete can't expect to hit a personal best every time they go into the gym, right? And so you're going to have days where you go to the gym and things aren't perfect, and you've basically got to do the best that your body can deliver on that day. I say the best. That's probably not the best way of phrasing it, because some people are going to push themselves to exhaustion. I mean, deliver a quality workout that's going to produce some level of adaptation based on what's going to be appropriate with your energy and how you're feeling that day. And it's not always going to be perfect, and you have to be okay with that. And so perfectionism is basically this, it's an impossible standard, because it's completely unsustainable. So therefore you're not, actually when you're a perfectionist, you end up having one of the lowest standards of all, right? Because you get it perfect, and then you don't do it whatsoever. And so of course you don't get anywhere. 2 steps forwards, 2 steps back, 2 steps forwards, 2 steps back. That's what happens when you're a perfectionist. So again, it all comes back to this minimum effective dose, but also recognizing that, you're gonna have some days when things are amazing and some days when your performance is tanking. Don't use that as an excuse to go, oh, well, there's no point. What's the point in doing it anyway? No, do the best with what you have available and then move forwards. something else that causes people to struggle with any level of consistency year round is chasing the wrong things for the wrong reasons. And this is very much related to some of the stuff I've already spoken about, but for a lot of people, an example of that, chasing the wrong things for the wrong reasons, is the only reason why they're trying to lose weight or they're trying to change their body in some way is because they can't accept themselves and they fundamentally have low self-worth. They do not love or accept themselves as they are as a person. So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to go from self-hate to less self-hate, as opposed to self-love to more self-love, right? Which is infinitely more effective. But when somebody is struggling with low self-worth and they're basically telling themselves, when I'm a skinny bitch, when I'm shredded and ripped, when, then finally I'll feel like I'm enough, then finally I'll be able to accept myself as a person. Well, that's doomed to fail for a number of reasons. One of the key ones being is that probably the number one core emotional need that we all have is to feel like we're enough, to feel worthy, that sense of self-worth. And if that need is not being met, well, basically what that means is that you're in emotional pain pretty much all day, every day, or you're distracting yourself from that pain. Some people bury themselves in work, for example. And so inevitably you're going to find ways of distracting yourself and numbing yourself from that pain. Some people bury themselves in work, but obviously you can't do that 24/7. And so food is a classic numbing agent for a lot of people. So you end up numbing yourself and burying yourself in food, because in that moment when you want to just comfort yourself with food, what feels more important, eating one healthy meal and saying no to emotional eating, or escaping the emotional pain of not feeling like you're worthy, not feeling like you're enough, feeling like you're a failure, feeling inadequate, right? Obviously that is significantly more prevalent emotional pain, and so you're going to do whatever you can in that moment, especially when you don't have any alternatives. You've conditioned your brain that when that threshold of that pain reaches, when the intensity of that pain reaches a certain threshold, then you just want out, you just want to feel better right now, and food is the most rapid, reliable, effective way for you to do that. You've conditioned that response, and that's just the habitual response now. So that's an example of, chasing the wrong things for the wrong reasons. So instead of what you're trying to escape, instead of escaping low self-worth, insecurity, all of this emotional pain, it's important that you actually get clarity on what it is that you want to move towards instead. So that's part of it, but also clearly you also need to learn how to meet this emotional need in much more useful, life-enhancing ways. The need to have a completely new relationship with yourself, where you totally and completely accept yourself today. You accept who you are, you accept your body as it is right now. You love and accept yourself and your body for who you are today, whilst you're excited about what you're transforming into and who you're transforming into tomorrow. That is infinitely more effective than trying to go from self-hate to less self-hate. Anyway, let me do my first set on bits. Right, what was the next thing I was going to talk about? Oh yeah, bit of a head rush. So the next thing that causes people to kind of be all or nothing, on the wagon, off the wagon, and lack consistency is belief, and being able to believe that they can actually do it and achieve what they set out to achieve in the first place. Because people frequently get to a point, low battery warning, people frequently get to a point where they think to themselves, well, what's the point? What's the point in doing it anyway? All this ties into that desperation mindset, that desperation mentality I was talking about before, right? So when we look at beliefs, it's interesting how the brain generalizes, and people look at their past and they've tried all of these things. I've tried all the diets. I've tried counting calories and macros. I've tried having a personal trainer. I've tried all the different online programs. I've tried hypnosis. I've tried counseling. I've tried therapy. I've tried CBT. None of those things worked for me. Well, the reason none of those things worked for you is that at best, they were a tiny piece of the puzzle. At worst, they are doing more harm than good. Some of those things actually cause make your issues worse, not better. And that's a topic for another day. I'm not going to dive into all of that. But what you have to understand is that, of course, there's a way. If you look for the evidence that it can't be done, you're going to find it. You're going to find other people who have also struggled. You're going to find evidence in your past of times when you have struggled. But fundamentally, human beings must be able to get themselves to a point where they believe that they can do the things that they've never done before. Otherwise, we'd all be living in caves, right? We wouldn't have cell phones. So you have to take command of the internal imagery that you have in your brain, and you have to be aware of the ways that your brain is going to generalize like this, because otherwise your brain looks at your past and it goes failure, 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 failure. That therefore must mean that I'm the failure. With the analogy that I kind of like to use is that it's like for 2 decades you've been trying to fix a car. You've been trying to fix a car with no tools, no manual, and no help. Well, let's start by giving you some tools, giving you some actual actionable techniques and skills and principles, not external strategy, not yet another diet, but actual tools for how to regulate your mindset and your emotions. Actual tools that work. Secondly, let's give you a manual, right? The complete big picture, not just one piece of the puzzle, the complete big picture. And number 3, let's give you some support from an expert. And so now you're trying to fix a car with the tools, with the manual, and with an expert who knows exactly what they're doing and has done it thousands and thousands of times, standing by your side, telling you exactly how to do it. All of a sudden, you can fix these issues rapidly, right? This is why people can go from struggling with things like low self-worth or emotional eating and binge eating, struggling with those things for decades, and then fixing them in a matter of weeks, sometimes even faster than that. Once you have the complete big picture and you have the correct tools and you have the correct system and structure in place, all of a sudden it's fast. And so it's important that you rewrite your beliefs about, because I've tried so many things and because this has gone on for years and decades, that must mean that I'm meant to stay with this for the rest of my life. Is that really what it means? Of course that's not what it means. All it means is that you had a tiny piece of the puzzle. None of that says anything about you, your capabilities, or your future, and everything about the methods that you've been trying so far. So it's important that you recognize that and you take command of your beliefs, because your beliefs are a choice. You can either choose that it can't be done, or you can choose, you know what, I know it can be done, it's just a matter of when, not if. Anyway, enough from me. Time for my second and last set on the deadlifts.